So I'm finally taking out the main crop onions. I've left them for quite a while after they'd kind of flopped over. I've had them underneath this cold frame top, looking pretty good. They're all in little bunches of 3 or 4. Ideally, I would have had them in bunches of 3, but actually looking at the ones that I forgot to thin and left as 4, they seem to be pretty good sizes. We are aiming for medium-sized onions. That's our objective, small to medium. We don't want big ones because big ones have too thick a neck and they tend not to keep very well. And so primarily we're, growing onions for keeping because we've got loads and loads of kind of smaller interplanted onions which will keep us going for months and months. So these really are the ones that we'll be eating sort of late, winter and spring basically. Kind of quite pleased that these are coming out really easily. I kind of find that when onions are ready to come out, they don't hold very strongly to the ground. And I'm just going to loosen them off for now, and then I'm going to take them out of this bed and weed the bed and sort of get it prepared for the next planting, and then I'm just going to lay the onions on top of it for a little while. So just to use this drying space because I don't have any other drying space. And as I go, what I'll do is I'll just take any rejects out because there's always a few. But so far, no sign at all of onion fly. So you kind of breathe in a big sigh of relief when you do this, and you see everything's kind of intact, no onion rot, no caterpillars crawling around, maggots crawling around, almost nothing gone to seed. And after last year's experience of so many of them going to seed, it's quite a relief. And this year has probably been our best ever year for onions. We've got kind of ridiculous amount, but we do get through a ridiculous amount, for at least an onion a day. This bed is planted 70 onions per square metre, and there's about 4 square metres here, so that's 280 onions. That is actually 1 onion a day from now on, basically. And then we've got quite a few extras for contingency and for giving away. And I've already given loads away to people who've not had such a good onion year. That's the nice thing about allotments, people share their bounty and then take advantage of the generosity of others when they have failures as well. So that's always pretty nice. Although we generally don't have too big a surplus feeding as many people as we do. Oh, there's one that's gone to seed. So here's the onion harvest. It's looking pretty good to me. I'll just sweep you through it so you can see it all. And yeah, really, really happy with it. But I'm kidding you. This isn't the onion harvest. This is less than half of the onion harvest. This is just the onions from that little area there, that little 2 square metre area. I've still got the same again to go. So this is the harvest from the other 2 square metres, and it's not quite as big because it's been grown under the shade of this big tree. And it really is, this whole bed is so shaded for quite a lot of the year. And it does kind of put to bed the myth, really, that onions need full sun. I've never been able to grow onions in full sun in my whole life, because I just don't have full sun on this plot. But yeah, so this is pretty good. But even this isn't, the whole harvest from this bed. because we've got all the rejects. So let's just take a look at those. So these are the ones that have been rejected only because they're too small to bother with cleaning up and drying. So these are just the ones we'll eat over the next few months. And then the ones at the end there, those are the ones that went to seed. So there's nothing wrong with these onions. It's just that, you know, this sort of size, they're just too small to bother with, really. Just the effort, you know, of drying them off properly and everything. But yeah, they'll be absolutely fine for eating, you know, over the short term. And because I don't have that much drying space, I'll probably, you know, just cut these off now and just dry the bulbs. Because the main advantage of drying them with the leaves on is that there's a chemical in the leaves which is absorbed into the bulb, and it suppresses premature sprouting of the bulbs. So if you want to keep your onions for a long time, keep the leaves on and dry them with the leaves on. If you're just going to eat them over the next few months, you can snip. So this is what I'm left with now. Just going to get this cleaned up, feed it, water it, and then mulch it with the dry compost. And then I'm going to lie the onions on top of the dry compost, and I'm going to just close up this cold frame top to keep them dry while they're drying off a bit. So I've got all these beds prepared, tamped them down with my beloved rubber rake. But I've decided I'm not going to put the onions in them now, because I looked at the seedlings that are going in this bed, and they're only about a week away from planting. So there's not enough time really for the onions to dry substantially. And this compost was also a bit too wet to lay the onions on as well. So I'm going to try and squeeze them into the little greenhouse, and whatever I can't get into there, I'll put in the polytunnel, on the polytunnel beds. Mini greenhouse is absolutely crammed full of onions and shallots. Trestle table is full of onions, and that'll be emptied of those onions in about 2 weeks when I start doing my sowing for autumn and winter. And the rest of the rejects are just down there on the floor. So if you want to know more about high intensity growing, then take a look at my ebook. You can find a link to it down in the description below, and it's free to read. You want to scroll down to the section on individual growing guides, and then scroll down to the section on onions, and there you'll find all the information you want, from sowing, all the different sowing dates, and how to plant it out and look after them and harvest them and store them. And of course, you know, there's loads of other sections in the ebook as well. Particularly interesting, I think, is the advanced growing guide. And so that takes you through all of the kind of, you know, advanced tips and tricks, like interplanting and relay planting and all of those sorts of things. So if you're interested in that, take a look, link down below. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.